The Diabetes Podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first speaking to your doctor.
What's up, Diet Buddies? You're about to listen to a very interesting and somewhat technical podcast with our guest, Eric Zucaro. To Eric, he is not a type 1 diabetic or someone that has type 1 diabetes, but rather a type 1 diabetes has made him Eric. And this has pushed him to accomplish amazing feats of strength. And we spent a lot of time talking about that, sometimes a little more technical, about some of the activities he's done, such as Olympic lifting, Crossfit, marathon running, ultra obstacle racing, and much more. Eric is a prime example, and so is this episode, that shows what is possible for someone who has type 1 diabetes and how type 1 diabetes doesn't have to limit you. Additionally, due to some technical issues, the Zoom connection wasn't the best in the beginning of the interview, so we tried to put together a linear story, but the delivery is a bit jerky. So you might hear us interject to provide more context of the story after the fact. Also, there's a bit profanity in this episode, so if you're parents, you might want to listen to it first before sharing with your kids. And technically, this might fall under what's a boxes up category now in the podcast. But anyways, we hope you enjoy the episode, and let's get into it. And welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Diet Buddies podcast. Today, I'm super excited to introduce our guest. We haven't had a guest for a while. Today with us, we have Eric Zucaro, who is a diet badass by even just looking at his resume. He's both has a BS as well as a master's in mechanical engineering, and that's his day job. But pretty much his second day job is just kicking ass when it comes to all physical, feats. He's competed in 2 national weightlifting competitions, 10 total. He's done anywhere from 5 to 100K races. And he's at least a level 16 or 17 diabetic. So welcome so much, Eric, to the Diet Buddies podcast.
Oh, I love that level 16.
Yeah.
17 here. Thank you so much for that intro. I appreciate being here.
Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself before we dive into some of the things that you have going on?
So I started weight training in the end of 2011, my freshman year of college. I eventually moved to Spartan races. I did some training for that, and I started CrossFit in 2016. And then one of the open workouts made me decide I needed to do Olympic weightlifting, and that would be 17.3. So I started Olympic weightlifting in, you guessed it, 2017. And I've been doing that ever since. So about 4 years now.
Wow. Out of all of that, what so you're currently doing more Olympic lifting. Do you have any one of those that's your favorite?
On a day-to-day grind, I love that. I just love the grind of Olympic weightlifting. I mean, I do 5 days a week. I know that's a lot for some people, but I just love seeing the results and hitting every body part and just doing all of my accessories. And I know people hate their accessories, but those are the fun parts, honestly.
Right on. Yeah.
So now Eric is going to be talking about how he bombed out of a meet, and not his most recent one that he absolutely destroyed, but one previously. And just so you know, when he's talking about lights, he's talking about whether a lift is good or not. So they provide different color lights to show if a lift is good and qualifies as a good lift, or if it is disqualified and it doesn't count towards their total.
I've been prepping for this meet since, I want to say September, when I bombed out at a virtual American Open series, which is a national level meet. So this meet I had to do literally right before going to my friend's wedding. It just, the time just really sucked. It was at my gym. My coach had to leave for a birthday party for his kid or whatever. So I had my older coach. He's been coming to our gym recently, so he was able to help. And I had my training partner was able to help. But I made 1 snatch and 0 clean and jerks. I made all my clean and jerks. They just didn't give me white lights on it.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a press out rule in the USAW where if you if you catch it and then you rebend your elbow. I think sometimes they do shoulders too, but it's like it's a weird one for the shoulder, right? But the elbow is mostly it, and it's just a technical rule, and it's partially like a safety thing. This one time I judged a meet, and this lady caught a snatch, and she like half shots pressed it up, and everyone was cheering her on. And I'm like, well, that's great, but red light.
Yeah, no lift.
And the judge next to me gave a green. I'm like, you can't do that. I gave a white, and I'm like, you can't do that, buddy. That was a red.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can imagine the crowd. I mean, that's still a huge feat.
It's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
He just won gold in her session at our meet yesterday, so that was cool.
Nice.
Yeah, we did 4 sessions. It was the lighter weight, the lighter totals women, heavier, and then lighter totals men, heavier. I was in the lighter, but I was also the heaviest weight class in my session, which was 81. We had mostly 81s and 73s, and there was a 102 in our session, but he didn't total as much as me.
Now, with a bit more background, we are about to discuss more of Eric's weightlifting meet he just competed in recently.
Yeah, so I've been preparing since September, since that, and just getting really strong. A lot of squats, a lot of just practicing the lifts, and the technique focuses have been a lot. We've been going heavy a lot this cycle, so I just felt prepared technically. My only issue was, am I going to bomb out again on the clean and jerks? Because sometimes my elbows don't want to do what they're supposed to do.
Sure.
This meet, I lifted a 100 kilo snatch weeks ago and 134 kilo clean and jerk, both all-time PRs in preparation for this. I've been cutting weight for about a week and a half because I just like to maintain myself.
Sure.
So
once Eric started to talk about his weight and losing weight for his competition, we asked about his recent diet, especially how it relates to his blood sugar.
Sure.
So yesterday after my meet, I wanted food. I mean, I wanted food. I weighed in light for days, since like Wednesday, and my meet was on Sunday. You can imagine 4 days of light. My weight class is 81 kilos, by the way. That's like 178.6 pounds.
I was just about to do the math.
Yeah. So as soon as I was done with the meet, there's a chicken place. My girlfriend went and got me fried chicken and waffles with maple syrup and buttered corn. It was great. And that's not even the gluttony part.
Okay.
That was while I was eating, while I was the center judge for the last session. It's ridiculous. I was like eating fried chicken and waffles and holding up a card, it was funny. But later, the next meal was Cheesecake Factory. And I didn't look up the calories for the meal, but I got the non-skinny meals, and then everyone else, my girlfriend, her mom, her dad, they got the skinny meals. And I'm like, all right, well, mine was bang bang shrimp and chicken.
Nice.
And yes, it was so good. And I don't know how, but she looked up the calories later and said there was 150 grams of carbs. And there's no way there's that many, because I ended up shooting up a pen and I was like estimating, and it doesn't always work out when you estimate and whatever. You switch between insulin types, and we got like a caramel apple cheesecake slice after that. And my blood sugar was a little high afterwards, but like not as high as 150 grams of carbs plus the cheesecake. So I don't know what they're listing on these sites, but a lot of diabetics can really get screwed over by following these to a T,
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. How much faith we actually put in to calorieking.com or MyFitnessPal,
Secret, yeah. And I don't know if are you both diabetic or just you?
Yeah, we're both type 1. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, carbs from fruit have zero effect on me. All fruit.
All fruit.
I don't care about the glycemic index. None of them affect me. Bananas, berries, apples, oranges. It's all good. None of them affect me. So I'll count them in my carbs for like my macro tracking purposes.
Yeah.
So like I need 70 grams of carbs after my workout, but I never bolus for that. And it's fine. I'm always like a 120 after. So I don't know.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, we've talked about that before, Grady and I, where a banana can really, if I'm low, a banana can definitely help me out. But he will die if he
Yeah.
has a banana for a low blood sugar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does not do anything.
It tastes good, but it doesn't. I don't think it helps my blood sugar at all.
Yeah.
It just tastes. It's good energy. I feel like it's good natural energy.
Yeah, it's the thought is, and it's not to the right degree, but with fruit being fructose and glucose, the receptors GLUT5 don't require insulin, and it never turns to glucose. It just goes straight into your cells and is metabolized that way via the liver, and so it never actually affects your sugar or your insulin needs. But that's crazy that all fruit, regardless of content of glucose to fructose ratios, don't change it. So I guess in the eyes of the diabetic gods, you are blessed in that way.
I guess so, but like, it's probably maybe pineapple a tiny bit, but I haven't noticed anything. And maybe watermelon, but I think that's mostly water, so I doubt it. My endocrinologist has tried getting me on berries or something so I could figure out. It's nothing. I've tried dragon fruit. I have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
Dragon fruits, $5 each. So I really tried everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you after a meet like that, you definitely deserve to be a little more gluttonous. So
Well, I only woke up like 0.1 kilos over my competition weight.
Wow.
I gained 1.5 pounds this morning. So I really, honestly, I really could have weighed in again and competed again if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Today.
Wow.
But I'm obviously not. Yeah.
Yep. What was the inspiration? What was the reason to do this last meet?
Yeah. I just like competing, and any meet at my home gym is easy to get to. So I like putting on a show. I like the feeling of being on the stage, and I just lift well with under pressure, so I think having that atmosphere is good, and it pushes me to do something, and it pushes me to do well in my training, so I can have a nice cycle leading up, and I can peak for something. And I think that's the whole point of weightlifting. I mean, if you're not trying to peak for something, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
You can work on technique all you want, but if you're not improving the total, then you're just working on technique on the same numbers,
Mm-hmm.
My technique numbers should be rising steadily, so I can, because with my maxes,
Right. Exactly. Now, Grady, do you
Yeah.
have you done any weightlifting competitions?
I had when I was in high school and college, there was a lot of people that were wanting me to get into like powerlifting. But I never ended up doing any of it.
I've wanted to try powerlifting, but the bench press, man, I suck at it.
Yeah.
I benched today. I'm like, man, I am awful.
Yeah. Ever since I lost all my fat, I can't bench worth a darn.
Yeah.
It's significantly inhibited my ability to get it off my chest and
to bounce the bar off your fat. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say that the only useful thing about bench is if A, you're like O-line, D-line in football, or B, if you're Batman and Batman Begins and pushing a flaming log off your chest, like that's pretty much it.
How much do you think Christian Bale could bench for that movie? I was thinking like 300, 315.
At least that guy puts his body through so much,
Yeah.
Yeah, not as much as the Wolverine, but it's whatever.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
Eric is about to critique his actual performance in the last meet in terms of his technique and how he did, and just his self-feedback, what's even going on. Oh, go on.
Yeah, I think this meet was my best yet. I mean, the only thing I did wrong was we had a little bit of a lapse in time in the snatch between my second and third attempt. I've been doing this thing recently where I take a pull right before a heavy lift so that I can get a heavier pull or the same weight pull, just so I can get my body used to pulling high, and then I can replicate that while I'm doing the lift, but not like I'm not actually doing the lift.
Yeah.
So wasting my energy. Yeah. On the third lift, I didn't have time to take a pull before. So I just rushed the pull under, and yeah, it felt like it was there, but I just didn't have enough juice on it. The clean and jerks, I thought they went really well. I felt so nervous for those, and I felt really good on the snatch. And we opened up a little lighter just because of the way the meet was run. Attempts, we didn't want to take too many breaks, so we opened up lighter, and then we went 1 kilo competition PR in the second attempt for 126 kilos. And then 130, I really wanted, because the last meet we did at my gym in the summer, July, I made 130, but when I was recovering from my front foot back, my elbows rebent. So I caught a perfect jerk. And then when I was recovering, it rebent just like that. And it was like,
oh man.
Yeah, they gave me red lights on that. And it was so
Really?
disappointing. Yeah.
I didn't realize that the part of the light process would have been even like what quote unquote would be like dismount, like moving your feet back and then dropping it. So you're saying as you're repositioning your feet, that's when you got the light?
Yeah, the lift's not over until we're fully in line. So if you're stepping back your feet together, if you're putting your feet together and your elbows bend in that process, it's a no lift, technically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I had a perfect lockout, and then I think I just rushed it, and that was a year ago. But I finally made it, and it was a little sketchy. I got one red light, but made it. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right on. Now, how was your blood sugar during the whole meet?
I had my T-Slim clipped to my compression underwear under my singlet, which I didn't think would be able to work. And, I would try to take a check in between the snatch and the clean and jerk, especially if I would have like a Snickers bar or something. But I really didn't have the time. It was moving so fast. Yeah, my endo says she sometimes can't find patterns just because of how random sometimes it is, depending on training. But like, guys, I'll train at different times of the day. I'll eat at different times of the day. And it's hard, and it's I'm not complaining or anything. It's just, I don't, if I was a runner, I guess it would be more regulated because I'm not I'm not relying on adrenaline or anything like that as much as as much as a strength athlete would, but I do. And, I just try to manage as much as I can. And the pump has been a godsend. And even during training with the control IQ, I've been getting my A1C down consistently. And I think that's more important than perfection, progress, not perfection.
Yeah, and absolutely. So I'm sorry that it ended up cutting out a little bit. So you've got the tandem T-Slim in January of when?
2020.
2020. Gotcha. So then when you said Dexcom, so you're doing the auto loop then and really helping the A1C go down from there.
Yeah. I mean, it'll go down like 0.2 every visit, but I think that's better than, random swings up and down. And I'm just trying to be consistent. And I had an endocrinologist once who dealt with a lot of type 2 diabetics, and he was all about perfection, not progress. He's like, to be honest, the advice, he didn't even admit he was wrong. He just said, I don't have any type 1 diabetic patients. There aren't any in your area. I'm like, this is Toms River, New Jersey. This is like Seaside. This is Ocean County, New Jersey. You can't say there's no diabetics here. You can't say there's no type 1 diabetics here. It's an uncommon disease. It's not rare. It's not non-existent.
Yeah, well, that's a very ignorant thing to say. That's full of ego. That's really disappointing to hear.
Yeah, he was just he was not patient at all. I mean, I just told him, listen, I'm working on it. I'm trying, but I need advice and I need guidance. And he's like, I need you to change all your ways. I'm like, can you be more specific? And he's like, I just change everything. I'm like, okay, not going well.
Yeah, that's not very helpful.
So I switched. I got a recommendation from my chiropractor. Imagine that. And he told me about good doctors in the area, and I'm driving like 54 minutes from mine because it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So how often then are you seeing your endo with such a far distance? Is it still the 3 months, or do you do more far out than that?
I was doing 3 to 6 months, usually 3, but she sent me out the nutritionist to try to clean up my habits, like take less processed sugar, more fruits. And then I started experimenting with the fruits, and that's how we got to that earlier thing. And it's interesting just to see how my body reacts to just more. I mean, I don't eat white bread or anything like that, or like high GI stuff purposely. I try to eat like whole wheat bread and like fruits and all that, and like oatmeal and but it is what it is. I guess I was doing some things wrong, and I needed guidance. But my old doctor was in New York City, and I was seeing him like when I came to the city, which is very stupid. And then I found the new one who was just ignorant and only seeing type 2 diabetics and didn't tell me that until 2 visits. And then I switched to the new one, and she's been working out, and she's great, and she's patient, which is the important part.
Mm-hmm.
With in the doctor field is good, because then you don't get fed up and switch to a new provider every 2 visits,
Yeah, no doubt. I've definitely had a respectful disagreements with my endocrinologist in the past. Because as a type 1, it's such an important relationship to have, no doubt. So for this meet, though, you were cutting weight, though. You said you were cutting for about a week and a half.
Yeah, I mean, just once you start cleaning up the habits and just normalizing everything, cutting out like random snacks here and there. I mean, like having a little like Hershey Kiss once in a while, it's like 3 grams of carbs. Who cares? But like, eating chips and like snacks while you're watching TV, it gets you when you're sitting at the couch at night. That's what gets you with the weight cut, because it'll be water weight that keeps adding on, and then you'll get discouraged. Your weight will fluctuate. But if you stay consistent, the water weight will drop off, and the rest is just, if you need to cut, just cut quantity. Don't cut quality. Like don't cut off a meal. Just lower your carbs from 75 to 60, and just take it from there. But yeah, I think the cutting was the simple part this time. The training was the hard part.
That's how it should be, right? The hard part should be the training for what you're doing compared to the other side of it, which is the weight cut. That's part of the mental strength part of it all.
Yeah.
So how many times have you cut weight for these meets?
Most meets I do cut weight, because I sit around 83, but I used to sit at 85 kilos. So I have done meets as an 89 kilo where I would weigh like 86 or 88, or 88 was once. I mean, that was like after drinking coffee and eating breakfast that morning and, whatever. But I've weighed in at 86 once, and I've done a few meets where I just didn't want to cut, and I just want to train. I want to lift heavy, and I didn't want to deal with the weight cut in the summer. It's kind of hard. Yeah. But most meets I cut to 81, and I've had difficulties where, my first national meet, they give you the time that they expect you to lift, like they'll say, I'm going to lift, my session will probably lift Friday morning at like 11 a.m. Okay, cool. So let me plan for that. I can weigh in light in the morning. So easy, because you wake up light, you take a shit, you pee, and then you're lighter. But when they change that to Thursday night, that's hard, because that's like a complete opposite. Now you have to fast throughout the day. You have to change your sleeping schedule. So they did that. We arrived Wednesday, and Wednesday night they told us that I would lift Thursday night. So I had a day, and this changed my my taper week, because I had to cut off a day and basically do my last day, like warm up lifts the same day as I was competing, like lift twice in one day after like fasting the whole morning and the night before and all that. I made weight, but 80.7, 80.6, 80.8, but it was hard because I didn't know if I starved myself a lot for that one.
Yeah.
If you don't make weight for a national meet, you're screwed. You have to announce your weight, and once they have the technical meeting, anything after that is wrong. You cannot change your weight class after that. You can change it before the meeting, but not after. At a local meet, you can show up and do whatever you want. They don't care.
Yeah, you can just bump up if you miss the weight, and
yeah. Yeah, some guy missed it by like 0.1 kilos
Oh
yesterday.
man.
I was like, oh no.
Wow.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Do you
well.
get to check your weight before, or is it just like, oh, you stepped on, that's it?
Yeah, generally you can. They have check-in scales
Okay.
that they're not the official weigh-in scale. So because the official weigh-in scales are normally next to a competition judge, but they have a
Okay.
check-in scale that are calibrated at the national meet. And then at my meet, I mean, you just show up and you use the scale while no one's there and it's fine.
Okay.
So that's you use the same scale. But yeah, you can check in and I would say they're different than your scale at home, because my scale at home always runs me a little heavier. So I use that as a saving grace, kind of.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So have you before you got into this much weight lift, Olympic lifting, have you had to cut weight before? And if so, how was learning that process and managing sugars all at the same time?
Never had to cut weight. I mean, I started as a 135 skinny guy in my freshman year of college, and I just started lifting, and I packed on 15 pounds in a month. I was asking my mom to make me more pasta and stuff, but otherwise it was a steady weight gain from there. 15 pounds, another 15, another 10. And then, the last 8 to 178 while I was racing. And then once I started doing CrossFit, you bump up to 185 and it's totally fine.
Mm-hmm. Right,
So,
right.
yeah, it's easier to keep the weight down while you're running every weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to, a little bit sporadically, but you've done a hell of a lot of running too, on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find people that lift a lot and run a lot. Now you're not in a running season right now, but you have that base that's probably going to be there for a long time. So tell us about all the ultras and obstacle racing that you've done.
Okay. So I started with Spartan races in 2013. I've done in between then, I've done like marathons, half marathons, 10Ks, 5Ks here and there. I don't like 5Ks. They're hard. They're really hard. But the other ones are just smooth sailing sometimes. The 10K is a bit tough, but the other ones are kind of smooth sailing. You get into a pace and you just stick to it. When I was doing the obstacle races, eventually it just escalated, and then you would meet people who were doing ultra marathons or trail races, and then you would get involved with that, and you're like, you see that Spartan race is now doing an ultra marathon, so you're like, oh, I can do that totally.
Really?
Yeah, they do an
And
ultra marathon.
I thought Spartans were only like 5 and 10K, essentially.
No, they have a half marathon version, and then some of them go up to 17 miles, but they have 2 laps of that is the ultra.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that was my first ultra. It was on Mount Vernon in New Jersey. That was how many years after I met Justin? I don't know. It was like a year after I met Justin or something like that. And I actually fractured my ankle at that race too. So, yeah, but that was the only injury I ever had, like from an athletic endeavor, Yeah. I did one large run to prepare for that, and that was a 20-mile trail race in New Jersey. And I had a temporary running coach at the time just to get me prepared for how to build up, because I didn't know how to run an ultra. I ran a marathon once, but it's hard,
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know how to pace for that crap. So I did the 20-mile one, and I was like, that was hard. 4 hours, that was tough. And the ultra in New Jersey, I think a deer hit my car that morning, so that was already stressful enough.
Oh, wow.
It was in Sussex, New Jersey, which is like farmland basically. So deers just rushed out and hit my car. But anyway, yeah, still made it to the race, did the race, and mile eight, I slipped. It was slick terrain from like raining the night before. Mile 8, I slipped on a steep downhill going through the woods, and my heel just like slammed into a rock, and I just didn't feel right, and I was like trying to limp it down, and I basically limped for a while, and eventually I got like feeling in my leg back, but I finished that race and a pretty good time. I did okay. 11 hours and I don't know, 18 minutes or something. And then for 50K, 31 miles. And
Okay.
yeah, once you finish the first lap, it's you either go or you don't go. So I just went, and I did it. And the next day it was raining pretty hard, and I did the half version of that again. So 40, like 50, like 45, 50 miles that weekend, something like that.
So how did you talk about the experience of doing something like that when with really no real background
Training no
training
real
at
background.
all?
Yeah.
And specifically though, maybe like was diabetes even a factor, or to you was it, like you said before, you're mostly like just doing the event, and that's just kind of as a byproduct of your imagination, and then you think about maybe later, like was that ever a fear, like how can I run 31 miles, 32 miles, like how did you tackle those scenarios in your mind before and or during those events?
So ignorance is bliss. I'll tell you that. Back when, CGMs and pumps were like older technology and not really like super commonplace for everyone, I didn't have either of those. So I would check manually, and I would inject manually via a pen.
Oh, wow.
Quick pen. So I didn't even take those with me because you would go in the water sometimes and those things would jam up and everything would be useless. So leave it at the drop in, and then I would check it at the halfway point, and then I would give insulin. I'd be low for a little bit because insulin while you're running is never great, but
Yeah.
you carry sugar with you while you're doing this, so it's fine. And I think eventually, like the amount of running and the amount of sugar you intake has to be on a delicate balance where you're not taking too much. So if you take like 25 grams of carbs an hour, if you're not sprinting, it's pretty good. Or no, 25 grams of carbs every like 40 minutes if you're not sprinting is good. So that worked out. But I would be high a lot, and I would be low sometimes. Like there were points in an ultra marathon and the Spartan where I would just be low and I would just be walking, and I had to eventually sit on a log, and my friends would pass me like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I think I'm low blood sugar." I would eat something and it would take a while to work. But I've had episodes like that, even in my most even on like a more recent race in like 2018 or 2017, I did that. So it happens.
So
but that was before
yeah. Would you now you're so focused on Olympic lifting, would you going into a race potentially in the future and not having this auto loop, would you, again, kind of ignorance is bliss, like not really sure how the auto loop would work in a long distance, like 4, 5, 6, 7 hour event like that, and just kind of go and just trust yourself to figure it out?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but
I love it.
I've used my pump while doing long hikes last year. Like I go on hikes for fun with friends, and these are the friends that like do Spartan races still. And I like doing things in nature just to take a rest day. And like by rest day, I mean like a 5-hour hike or a 6-hour hike on a strenuous mountain. So that's
not
hard.
really rest.
The issues I found with that is your muscles would get so tense from the actual activity that they would lock up, and this would be exactly where the cannula is, and then it would fail because it was like the muscle is like locked right around the tubing, so it's like it just eventually fails unless you like ease it up. Like I have my cannula on my hip on my glute area, so when you're like hiking, that's the one thing that's getting worked, that and your calves. So I've got to figure that out if I'm going to go hiking, maybe put it on my stomach. But
yeah, I was gonna say, do you always put it on your glutes?
Yeah, I mean, it's out of the way for Olympic lifting. If I put it on my stomach, I'll probably end up hitting it with the bar.
Yeah,
I never liked that. And when I used to have an Omnipod back in the day when I was in college, I hated the Omnipod because
it's just so big and bulky.
It's big and bulky, and the little viewfinder thing, the viewing screen would like fog up easily. So you could never tell if it was still in there. And this is for like anyone with an active lifestyle. You would think the Omnipod is awesome because it's like wireless or whatever. It's awesome. You put it on your back or you put it on your like glute or whatever. You do a sit up and then you're in like pain because you can't do sit ups anymore. And it came to the point where I was at one of my frat parties and I had the Omnipod on my rear and I was on the wall for an extended period of time for some reason. And I ended up having high blood sugars all throughout the night. And we had a chapter meeting the next day and I thought I was hungover and it was not a hangover. It was ketones.
Yeah.
My dad picked me up and my pee was like dark. And, you know, we had an ambulance come because I just didn't know it wasn't working anymore.
Wow.
And now now the pump technology is so good, it'll sense when it's not connected. It'll tell you have an error with the CGM at least, not the pump.
Right. I love that you don't allow these fears and even having some of these episodes that some might be terrified to have to inhibit you from doing and living your life. And I think that's really inspiring to a diabetic that might have goals and dreams to do all these crazy things or fun things, but be afraid of that. And you're just like, screw it. I'm going to do it anyways and just do it no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, I had enough of a childhood where I was excluded from things just because of not being popular. And I didn't want to be excluded from something because of a limitation that someone said I have to have. My mother always like tried to say, you have to be careful. You can't do this or that. I'm like, why can't I? What's the reasoning? And I would do it anyway. She would always like say, hey, you can't run 50 miles or you can't do that. I'm like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. So, it's going to happen.
And like, it almost makes you want to do it just more because people say you can't.
Well, like I'm not doing it because she said I can't. It's just I'm signed up for it. And she said I can't because I announced that I'm signed up for it. I announce these things so I can be held accountable for them.
Yep.
I don't just sign up for a 50 miler and show up and be like, hey, I ran a 50 miler yesterday. That's not cool. But I was going to do what is it called? Was it when you jump out of an airplane? Was it called skydiving? I was going to do skydiving last summer, but it was no. I was going to do skydiving on Halloween, but it was so windy that day. It was like 50-mile-per-hour winds that we had to cancel. So we're probably going to do it this summer. But now I mentioned it at dinner last night, and my girlfriend's dad wants to do it, and apparently he's afraid of heights, but he's going to do it.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, but I might leave the pump on the ground for that because that's not going to last.
Yeah, I was just about to say I just started thinking about skydiving in a way I haven't before because one of my patients is an active skydiver and like talking about like the forces on different parts of her joints, and she'll go on like 50 jumps in a day, like so like it's some of these people like in CrossFit communities and Spartan racing community, like there are people that love jumping out of airplanes.
Really? 50 in a day? Wow.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. And but thinking about I think you described it in a way that in terms of how the cannula gets kinked when you work out in a way that is really good. And I bring it up thinking about it in the way of skydiving, but you said how your muscle seizes up around it.
Yeah.
And locks on. And based on usage and dehydration, how it literally the muscle fibers just tense up in a way that literally squeezes it and creates that inflammation around it until it's not being used anymore. And I think that, at least for me, I got a really good visual out of that.
But that's what it feels like to me. It just feels like the muscle is like locked on it. And it's like, I can feel the inflammation on my glute exactly where the cannula is. And I know, hey, stop running, like ease it up and maybe it'll like unseize, but it's hard to do that. Like I would get a reading and then it would eventually fail. So once it starts doing that, it's kind of difficult.
Yeah. Once that process starts, it's hard to stop it. And reverse it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like your muscle can unseize, but if the cannule's kinked at that point, it's too late, right?
Yep.
So, so thinking about you trying to skydive like that, again, you have no idea how that's going to affect your sugar. Like adrenaline is going to skyrocket it, but you're going to do it anyways. You're going to live your life.
I think it's going to be fine. Honestly, I'm going to leave the, I'm going to take the tubing out, and I'm just going to lock in the little plastic thing that's on my body. And I really think that'll be fine. I'll probably wear compression shorts, honestly, so it keeps the transmitter on there, because losing a transmitter fucking sucks.
Yeah.
It's a 3-month supply, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not, if my sensor happens to end right before my jump, then I'm gonna leave it off. But otherwise,
yeah,
it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, because I went skydiving a few years ago, and I didn't even think anything about my pump at all. I was just like focused on, the
surviving.
Yeah, what was gonna happen and everything. Luckily, the pump survived, but yeah, I didn't think anything about it.
So you kept the pump in your like a zippered pocket in your pants, and you just jumped out with it?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. See, I don't know what would happen to the screen. I'm more worried about the hardware than I am than the insulin itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know what the compressive forces in the air would do to the screen, like just like smashing it together. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that was back when I had the Medtronic. It was like, it wasn't the 670G. It was the older one, which is like just like a brick. You couldn't break that thing if you tried. And so I always just took it for granted that nothing would ever break. And it probably wouldn't have been a good thing, because I was in Mexico at the time, so it wouldn't have been a great scenario.
Yeah, I love that Tandem sends if you have an error while you're like on a trip somewhere, they'll send you a temporary one, and then you would send them the broken one when you get back home or something. But they would send you a temporary one. Yeah, because it's your lifeline.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot of people don't carry extra insulin pens. They just carry the vials, right?
Yep.
So what are they going to do if their pump breaks?
Yeah.
Wow. So we've kind of gone all over the place, and I'll give us back to maybe on track in a second, but leaning into where this conversation is going so far, Eric, would you say that are you, Eric, a type 1 diabetic, or Eric who has type 1 diabetes?
I think that type 1 diabetes has made me Eric.
Ooh,
so I
love that answer.
Yeah, it's not the only thing that's made me Eric, but it's one of the things that made me Eric. It's developed me as a person, that's given me the qualities that like perseverance and just willpower and consistency, because if you don't have consistency, your blood sugar is all over the place. But these qualities have developed me, given me like useful life skills to manage, like being patient and not take things for granted, and just like on top of things. And these are skills you use in life, and you don't realize it when you're like 10 years old with a new diagnosis, and you're like, why me? Everyone thinks, why me, when they're 10 years old and they have a new disorder that no one else has, and they have to see the school nurse every day. But I don't like it, but I don't feel like it hinders me,
Right on. That's a great answer. Yeah, I haven't even thought about it in that way. It's what's made you Aaron. Wow, that's great. Yeah, because I remember when being first diagnosed, you definitely aren't thinking those big of terms. And I remember when I was first diagnosed at 13 or whatever, I was like, crying to my mom or something like that. I was like, does this mean I'm never gonna sleep in again? And let alone I found out I'm never gonna sleep in again just because I work too much.
Yeah.
But so bringing back.
Wait, hold on. Do you guys still have your diabetic bear from when you were diagnosed?
I do not. I don't know if I got a bear.
Are you serious?
What?
Yeah.
How'd you practice your injection sites?
I think they just gave me like an orange to practice in.
Oh, that's dumb.
I know.
I was at one of these pediatric hospitals, and they gave me this bear named Rufus, and it had like all these like patches on its arms and legs, and you practice all these like spots. He's got like these overalls and an upside down T-shirt for some reason, but it was my mom still has it at her apartment.
That's
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't get that one. I've definitely practiced injections in an orange, but I did get a diabetic bear, and I think I'm just too big of a softie inside. Maybe I was supposed to use it injected, but I just cuddled the shit out of it as a kid.
Oh yeah. I still sleep with them when I go back to my mom's place. I'm gonna go back this weekend. So
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
yeah, I'll send you a picture when I get them.
Great.
Yeah.
It'll be the cover art for
Oh,
this
that's
one.
awesome. Yeah.
And we'll Photoshop it, snatching.
Yeah. We'll put we could put like a spoon in his hand or something. Whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's dope. Wow. So you have this great view, I would say, probably better than a lot of people in any situation. But in terms of managing your condition, how you approach life, you have a great view. And when it comes to cutting weight, you mentioned something where you broke your ankle, and you relate it to the almost having a diabetes having an effect. What do you mean by that?
I fully blame it on the diabetes, but it taught me a valuable life lesson. I'll get to that, but when you cut weight, certain protocols you follow will have you, you would lift, and you would base your calories around your lifting time. So if I would work a 9 to 5, and I would base my meals and what kind of carbs I got on my schedule that way. So my day would start out, when I'm cutting, my day would start out with like meals of like 0 carbs in the morning, and then like 30 carbs in the late morning, and then like 50 carbs before, as a late lunch, where I would go before I go to the gym, like within 3 hours or something. Just the carbs would fuel my workout.
Mhm.
And you build up to that, and then you have a certain amount of carbs per day. This was the day after I tested my openers, and I did a pretty good job, and it was great. And I was peaked. I mean, my heart rate was like in the 30s. It was great. My weight was going down. I was just drained from the cut. I mean, I was doing a longer one. I was doing like a 6-week one, and it was like, it's starting from 86 kilos. So this is a 5 kilo cut pretty much, and this is because I was sloppy, and I let my weight go up, and I was lazy with what I ate. I would eat Oreos whenever, and I would let my weight go up to 86 kilos. And it's hard to cut 5 kilos for a meet, in the summer, especially because it's hot. Your blood sugar is going to drop because it's hot. It's just how it goes.
Mhm.
And when you're cutting weight, and you have to follow these meal times, and if you're very like a very technical person, like an engineer like myself, you'll follow it to a T, and you will make sure everything's consistent, because I feel like consistency is what helps the weight drop off. It's the water weight that you're trying to get off, especially. And if you are inconsistent, I feel that the water weight could add up, except I was too meticulous with that. I didn't see value in treating my blood sugars if they went low because of this. I thought I would just cut the insulin off, and it would be fine. I would eventually bounce back up. And this was a rest day, or this was a Tuesday, the day after my openers. So I still had I think it was a rest day. I'm not sure, because I was supposed to fly out to Daytona Beach for my first national competition. Whoa. And yeah, it was a work meeting. We were sitting down, and I had a no carb meal, a no carb, 0 carb meal just before. And this is a rest day, so I could have timed my meals any way I wanted. And I foolishly gave myself a no carb meal. And then I went to the meeting, and my blood sugars started to drop. I didn't give any insulin for the no carb meal. It just started to drop. I don't know why. Maybe it's just my metabolism is just too fired up, and it just did it. But if I gave myself the carb meal and I just gave maybe a unit or two of insulin, I would have been fine. It was just a bad turn of events. And I went low blood sugar. I stood up from my chair and I started to wobble. My coworkers tried to stabilize me and they tried to guide me down. The way they guided me down and the way I was falling down, I kind of like compressed my right ankle in a weird way. And I don't know how, but I was on the floor and I was in pain. And when I would try to stand up, it wasn't right. I needed to be walked down. And my roommate came and got me. I actually have my x-ray here on me for some reason, but I was going to throw it out, but I guess this is good that I have it.
Wow.
Here we go. I don't know if you can see it, but it is here. Oh, right here. Yep. So
On the
it was
fibula.
it was the anterior tibialis, I think. So it was a bit separated there, and I went to my chiropractor on Wednesday, the day after this. Still driving. I mean, I got a cane from CVS or something, and I went to my chiropractor thinking, okay, maybe it's just like, maybe I just did something weird. Maybe he can like adjust it and I'll put it right back. So he tried and he was like, I don't know. It seems like something's off, but I can't tell you for sure. I can give you an x-ray script and we can get this sorted out before you fly out. So he did that. And the next day, the day before I was supposed to fly out, he told me it's fractured. You can't compete. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
All right. So he told me to go to the ER and get it casted up. And that's what I did. And I ended up going to the ER at like 7 in the evening, and I got out at like 1 a.m. and my flight was at I don't know, like 9:30. Oh no, yeah, my flight was early. It was like 7. I got like 3 hours of sleep. I had to go to Philly, and it was a mess. I mean, they basically wheelchaired me through the airport. I don't know how I did any of this, but I got there. I got to Orlando. I found a medical supply store and I bought a boot, and I took the cast off and I put the boot on and I had crutches, and I got to the meet and I was coaching my friends, and that's that.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was I had that boot on until like November, like October, November. So September to like October, November. And that boot was on, and I started lifting again. I think like November 5th or something, like right before my birthday. So that was nice. That was a good birthday gift.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I just did upper body, 4 days upper body split, shoulders, bench press, strict press, seated strict press, a lot of seated stuff.
Yeah.
Seal rows on the bench. It is what it is. You got to get strong, right?
The birthday gift of gains.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy.
I did a meet a month later in December.
And that was probably not a national meet then.
No, that was the meet where I weighed in 88 kilos.
Yes, that makes sense.
I was like, I gained weight from that. So, it is what it is. And then from there, it was just like I maintain myself at 86, and it was hard to get down. So I tried, but now I like 83.
So what was the diabetic lesson and then the life lesson? Both.
Thanks for reminding me. The life lesson is just don't be so strict with everything. Just take the punches as they come, and just you have to adapt. And that's what diabetes too. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth trying to make weight, because like eating half a Snickers bar is not gonna ruin your cut. You're still gonna be fine the next day, and if you're not, you'll just cut water somewhere. But I mean, if I just had half a Snickers bar or something, like a little tiny pack of Skittles, I would have been totally fine. And it was that just, that poor decision that just sidelined me for the 3 months. So was it worth it? No, but mentally, I guess it was, because I learned a lot, and I got strong seeing my friends lifting how I wanted to lift, and I couldn't do anything about it except get strong in my own way. And that's what I did. I just stayed with the course, and I'm here now. So
Yeah, you gotta live and learn, and yeah, it's like that trade-off, because I know I've fallen into that same trap of trying to follow something so strictly and then just being like, oh, I'll just take my pump off and it should come back up. But yeah, sometimes just being able to take a step back and look at, okay, what is really important. And obviously diabetes is really important in our lives, and it has a big impact on not only day to day, but the big picture. But day to day does matter, and you got to survive that day. So
yeah,
correcting lows is a must.
yeah. I mean, it was like the difference between like force, like, trying to force in a screw versus actually trying to screw it in, being patient with screwing it in versus just trying to jam it in.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to jam it in by just, being so strict with this diet. If I didn't screw anything up with the diet, I'd be fine. I'd be fine with my weight class. I wouldn't suffer with my energy. I'd be okay, and this and that. And then, I lost sight of the big picture, which is, being patient and healthy and alive,
Oh. I'm glad that you're not bitter about that experience at all. Because I think it'd be really easy to be like, wow, that national meet could have really maybe changed some things in your, lifting career.
I learned a lot at the national meet, just like being a coach and not like worrying about lifting. I coached 2 lifters, and it just so happened that our coach ended up canceling because his work required him to stay,
Oh.
and he couldn't fly out. So I ended up taking the mantle, and I thought it was meant to be. I learned how to count attempts at a national meet. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, my lifter got like third in her session, so that was cool.
Oh.
Right on. Nice.
Yeah.
So then you also did do CrossFit as well?
Yeah, I started CrossFit right after recovering from the first ankle fracture.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, no, I was going to start right after that race, except I went to the I don't know, I got an x-ray done on it, or an MRI or whatever, and I was like, okay, it's fractured. He said 3 months, no legs, no running, nothing. 3 months, you'll be healed. I'm like, okay, I'll stop training legs. I still raced every weekend on a boot. Or I would take the boot off when I got to the race. I would put on my running shoes, but I would put on a brace, like a soft brace, like a soft cast, or not a soft brace, so that my ankle was like stiffer.
Yeah.
But I still put
more
I still
compression.
put my running shoes. I still put my running shoes on, and I didn't really like push the pace per se. And I would favor my left leg so that I wouldn't hurt myself more. But I've done hard races with that, and I raced almost every weekend. And the only things I canceled were Go Rucks, because you put a
more weight on.
You put a weighted backpack on. I'm like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't do that, but I can do a race. And I was like, so I didn't want to cancel all these races. It was like one race every weekend, or like 2 races every weekend. I'm like, how much money is that? Like, how would I get the refunds for that?
That's true. But
so and you won't believe me, but I recovered in the time that my guy said that I would recover in if I didn't do anything. 3 months exactly.
Really? Wow. That's a David Goggins type mentality right there.
Well, I recovered by mid-July. I started CrossFit. My roommate had started before me, so I had to catch up. But
of course,
yeah, we were going to start together, but he ended up starting before me because he was impatient. So I had the basis for CrossFit. I mean, I knew how to front squat. I knew how to squat. I knew how to bench press. It was just like learning I wanted to do the on-ramp so I could learn the movements, and I liked CrossFit. My first open workout was 17.1, which they just did again this year.
You're right.
21. Yeah, that was hard. And I mean, I think I did open workouts to prep for it, as like CrossFit programming is in your box.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my first actual open workout, and I redid it, and it hurt. And you know what? We had a chiropractor on site, so that was awesome.
Nice. Yeah, that I just joined the cult of CrossFit like last July. So
Yeah.
relatively new to me, just did the open, so just 21.2. And I didn't finish the RX. I got to like 15 reps in the final 50 reps
Burpee,
of the
dumbbells.
snatches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But those burpees, those 15 burpees felt like those lasted forever.
Yeah, they do.
What do you say to
Yeah.
Grady? Grady's thinking about joining the Colts himself in a
Really?
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you? I've been trying to convince him. What would you say to somebody and a diabetic to say, hey, it's worth it?
Honestly, it kills two birds with one stone. You're getting really strong and really fit at the same time. And I mean, like if I can do ultra marathons just with CrossFit, why wouldn't you? I would literally show up to an ultra marathon with no training, just doing CrossFit, and I would finish. And
Wow.
I'm talking about my longest distance ever, 100 kilometers, no training whatsoever.
Wow.
50 miler, one of the hardest 50 miles in the country. My friend DNF'd. I had multiple friends that went with us that DNF'd, and myself and my other friend who trains running religiously, we both finished. She did a lot better than I did, but I still finished. And that was my first. That was my first 50 miler.
Yeah.
My other friend who DNF'd, he's a Marine, and he like rucks everything, and he's done like a bunch of 50 milers, a few 100 milers at that point. He DNF'd. So I mean, if CrossFit can do that, what can it do?
Mm-hmm. There you go, Grady.
It is. I'm sold.
Yep, there we go.
So we do a segment called "Burst My Beta Cells" here, Eric, and it's kind of like grind my gears.
I didn't even want to ask. I was figuring it was like grind your gears, but I wanted to be surprised by that.
Yeah, it's like grind my gears.
Okay.
So it could be about anything. It could be about diabetes related. What bursts your beta cells about being diabetic. Burst my beta cells about all the athletic events that we discussed, or anything. What has been recently bursting your beta cells.
Ooh. Okay, I have two. I mean, I'm going to start with the diabetes one. When you have like those teenagers, like 16-year-olds that like, you all know this story. Like, there's a 16-year-old girl who just recently gets diagnosed with diabetes and they're in denial,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah. And they don't want to do the insulin and they don't want to like check their blood sugar 5 times a day or whatever. And their mom's like worried about them. So they go and contact all their friends and try to find a diabetic mutual friend or someone. My mom's friend has a 16-year-old daughter who recently got diabetes. This is like a year ago, but she does not listen to her. And she's like, listen, I'm going to, my friend's son, he's been diabetic for 15 or 6, I don't know how old, 16 years. And it's like, you can't take it for granted. I don't know if they think it's going to go away or whatever, but it's there, like the whole denial thing. It's hard with a medical condition. You can be in denial about a relationship, but something that's like decaying your body like that, and you're just making it like, you're not even like maintaining, you're just going the opposite direction. You're just like, you're pulling at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that. I can't understand that. When you have someone that like loves you that much, like your parent, to like find mutual friends of someone with the same exact experience as you, even a 10-year-old with diabetes. I mean, that was my life. I know I've met 5-year-olds with diabetes. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, and you can't just take it for granted. I get that you're in denial about how hard it is, but you have to take one step at a time. And 16-year-olds know best, right? I don't know.
Yeah. It's definitely a tough age. Like trying to get teenagers to do anything is just so hard. And they're just so rebellious against anything, whether it's something that's going to help them or not. Like, working with teenage patients, like whether they're diabetic or not, it's like almost always a struggle of trying to just motivate them to do something. That's a tough age, and it's an art trying to get to those kids.
But you know what? Diabetes like gives you these like what is it called when you have like diabetes is it's a whole feedback mechanism. You know your high blood sugar when you're peeing like every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, like what kind of 16-year-old wants to go to the bathroom every 30 minutes? Like, are you serious?
Yeah,
Or
and
like
just be
have their pee dark yellow. You know,
Yeah.
like why?
or be thirsty all the
comfortable.
time and have brain fog and
That's
headaches
how I
and all
found.
that
That's
stuff.
how we found out. I'm gonna get. You know what? I'm gonna get to my my diabetes story now.
Yeah, go for it.
That's how I found out I was diabetic, because we were going on road trips and I was always drinking like soda and eating Doritos, and I would have to go to the bathroom every rest stop. And my mom's like, I don't know what's going on, but we're gonna bring you to the pediatrician. I'm like, okay, whatever. My dad and I were supposed to. We had a pediatrician appointment. We were supposed to watch Spider-Man, 2004.
Yeah, the original.
What was this? Yeah, that was Spider-Man 1 or 2.
I think that was that might have been 2. I don't know.
Anyway, we were supposed to watch Spider-Man in theaters, and I was so excited. And instead, I had to be taken to Long Island Jewish Hospital, and I'm given a diabetic bear, and I have a curtain around me, and it's not pleasant. But that was my story.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I guess the other thing, you know, with weightlifting, I feel like every new lifter comes in and they're like, I've been trying to learn the lifts for like 2 months, 3 months, and I don't even know. I don't know how to snatch. Like I just don't get it. And I'm like, I've been lifting since 2017 and I still don't know how to snatch. You know? Like, if you're not a world champion, you don't know how to snatch. You know, that's just how it is. If you don't have a world record, you don't know how to snatch. Everyone's always learning. It's not the easiest thing to learn. It's very difficult, and there's feedback mechanisms. The lift will tell you when you're doing it wrong, because you'll miss, or it'll feel wrong on your shoulders or your legs or your back. But I'm telling you, I hear this like almost daily at the gym. It's like, I get it. It's frustrating, but you know, like to say that you're going to give up weightlifting because snatching is super difficult. I mean, I get it's difficult, but if it were easy, would you really like it?
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. I totally been geeking out on learning the snatch and clean and jerk, because there's so many different parts to it. And as you know, from doing it for so long, and I just love the fact that you have to accelerate, accelerate, push, pull, receive. There's just so many different parts of that compared to powerlifting me back years ago, that was just like, I'm gonna freaking just pull up a weight and
yank it,
pick it up and put it back where I found it. It's way different mentality of finesse. That's beautiful. When
it's
it works
weighted
well.
Gymnastics. It's weighted gymnastics. Really, you're just, the only difference is you're moving your body around the bar. The bar is motionless. The bar, it peaks to a certain height, and then you're getting under it. You're not getting the bar around your body. That's the wrong way to look at it. I don't know. I just think there's a whole art to it. And then once when you peak for a meet, I feel like everything lines up. Your technique lines up. Like your body is just recovering in that special spot where like all the fatigue of the cycle is just draining away. And it's just, everything feels light, and not until competition day, but everything will feel light. And it just, everything falls into place. And I almost had a 6 for 6 day. That was almost my first. I was very close, and I'm really happy with a 5 for 6. That's the beauty of weightlifting. I mean, you always happy with one thing. If it's not a PR, it's just how the lifts felt, or how they looked, or how you felt, or how the weight cut felt. I don't know. There's so many things to be happy with.
Yeah. Wow. How about you, Grade? What's been bursting your beta cells?
Well, very recently, is technology. This whole meeting that we've had has been laden with technology problems, but we're getting through it. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, technology is really bursting my beta cells.
That's probably my fault. I had 3 devices on the same network.
That's all good.
Yeah. I've been, on the diabetes side, it's been, not burst my beta cells, but it's more of just still the hardware error. Like I think like I'm so, it's hard for me to find time, or rather make time for all the little things that got going on. But like my pump, there's a part of my pump that snapped off, that technically now my insulin reservoir can just, like, at the right tension, just pull out of the pump.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God.
And so, but like,
Is this tandem?
this is Medtronic. This is Medtronic.
Oh,
This is with the 670, and it still secures in, but it can pull out, and at the same time. And so between that and just a couple other things, with the hardware issues, it always makes it, like, I think, because since it's happened like 4 times, I've skyrocketed at 300, without realizing it, that it's like
yeah.
not secure in there at that moment,
Mm.
which is frustrating because, you can, I try to keep the big picture in mind, which is almost like the theme, that I think that Eric, you've been almost, given to us, through this episode. But trying to keep the big picture in mind, so I don't let it discourage me. But it's still frustrating when technology fails, and yet you might have the knowledge and you could do this and that, but yet it doesn't happen because diabetes is an everyday thing. So
Have you tried contacting customer service? They usually replace these things.
they normally do, and I just haven't. That's what I mean. I haven't
I
made the
say
time.
I'm pretty sure
Are
there
you
was a
serious?
recall on that part because that was a common thing that
Yeah,
happens.
I think I saw that on a lawsuit on Facebook or something, or an ad or whatever. You should totally go into that lawsuit.
Well, if it's
Are
part of
you,
that, then I think I'll be in luck. But I think my
class
warranty,
actions are great. You get free money for nothing.
you just throw your name on there. That's totally true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
great.
But my warranty on my pump just went out, I think.
No.
So if it fits the criteria of the class action, maybe that'd be fine. But
But maybe the issue started before your warranty, so you could say, "Hey, this
right.
started," and then this thing snapped off in like July or whatever. I've just been trying to figure out what it was, and now I looked up the part recall, and now I realized it was that. So can you replace it? I know it's out of warranty, but hey, customer service, right?
Exactly.
You'd rather
So
keep a customer if you're only a month out of warranty.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they'll bend the rules, and Medtronic and a couple other diabetic related companies. Like, I find Dexcom super easy to work with. They'll find a way to make, because they realize how ridiculous the situations are. They don't make exceptions on those, but like small little things, like, they'll not turn an eye for, but figure out ways of avenues for you to accomplish your goals. So
Yeah, I mean, they send me like boxes of like 10 if I only have like 4 to report. You know, if I have more than 2 to report, they only send out 2 packs or 10 packs. So it's like, all right, thanks, I guess.
Right. So that being said, it's always a common burst my beta cell for me too, is just thinking about all the extra shit, that we got to think about, deal with, and deal with, that only a type 1 can really empathize with, to the right degree. So
yeah, I had to pack my weekend bag and I still forgot the damn supplies. Yeah. It's like, you would think that after, I don't know, 17 years, I'd finally remember, but no.
No, never.
You get caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Well, you're trying to like get like in the right mindset for this meet, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, go to bed early, this and that. And then you just forget the most important thing. So it happened.
So right on. Well, Eric, is there any last little tidbits of any wisdom you wanna kind of give to our listeners, or anyone out there in diabetes world?
Yeah, I just want to say that weakness is a choice. I mean, you don't need to let a disability that's been forced upon you to force you to live your life a certain way. I mean, if you must be this tall to ride this ride, it doesn't say that anywhere, that you can't skydive because you have diabetes. It doesn't say that anywhere. I mean, you're not pregnant. You're not 4'11". You don't have any of these physical limitations that don't let you ride this ride or whatever. And I'm sorry if those were a little offensive. I'm sorry to all the short people and the pregnant people, but that was just an example. yeah, I mean, no one said you can't do what you want just because you have an insulin pump or you don't have an insulin pump. You just have to do it. It's your choice. And I know, it's easy to make excuses when you're given these hardships, but I think just, I think the whole premise is like learning over time that, it's hard, but you learn with life experience. And it took me 17 years to get to this point. It calluses your mind and it calluses your body. Literally, it actually does callus your body, right?
Yeah.
With the finger pricks, yeah. To get to a certain way, to have that kind of mindset. And I'm not David Goggins or anything, but I think I forget that I'm diabetic because I try to live a normal life as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I love that. And, to some of the references you brought up, I think those people in those situations would agree with the sentiment regardless, in that, those limitations or what could be perceived physical limitations don't have to limit you. Like you said, weakness is a choice, and figuring out a way.
I just want to say on the 411 thing, there's a 411 sprinter who did hurdles, that's now a weightlifter. So if she can do hurdles, after everyone says this is not the sport for you, you can do whatever the hell you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I love it. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us and jabbing for a bit. I look forward to hanging out with you and maybe talking just whether on or off another podcast here in the future, because and just following your weightlifting career and just everything else, because you were definitely a badass, or a diet badass that people should take note of.
Thank you so much for the kind words. I had a great time just jamming out with you guys, and it's good to hear from other diabetics that aren't on a Facebook group or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Diet Buddies podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found value in today's conversation, we would appreciate it if you gave a 5-star review. It really helps us branch out our community and get our message across to those who really need to hear it. If you want to interact with us on social media, you can follow us on the Diet Buddies podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Or if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or moral outrages, you can email us at thedietbuddiespodcast@gmail.com. Thanks.